All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Stories of a Colorful World, Authors Conversation. And I'm your host, Kanika Mobley. And this week we have the pleasure of chatting with co-authors, mother and daughter duo, Serena and Asha. It is so nice to be able to get a chance to speak with both of you today.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Absolutely. So before, welcome Serena and Asha. And before we get started, do you mind just telling us a little bit about yourselves?
Yes, certainly. So do you want to start? Or should I? Me? Okay. So I'm Serena. I wear a few different hats. I'm an attorney, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a writer, I'm a mom, I'm a wife, daughter, sister, all these things. And now a children's book writer. I love to travel. I'm passionate about traveling. I live in France. We live between Miami, Florida, and France. Right now we're in France, and I have Asha, who is my daughter, and also a 3-year-old son. His name is Amal. And yeah, we are just a traveling family. We love to go to different places, explore new things. And a few years ago, this encouraged us to write a children's book story about these experiences. At the time, it was just Asha, and she was going to these incredible places, seeing these different people, eating different types of foods, exploring landmarks and different cultures. And I said, this is really interesting. Maybe other children would like to learn about these kinds of things. So this was the beginning of our journey to being book writers.
Nice. Serena, were you someone who was like interested in reading and writing as a child?
Yes, definitely. I'm definitely a bookworm. I started late. I didn't start as early as Asha. Obviously, you learn how to read, but I didn't become like an avid reader myself until about junior high. You just find that right book that speaks to you, and then I just gobbled up every book I could get my hands on since then. And writing, I've been journaling since I was 15, 16 years old. So creative writing classes in college, constantly journaling, working on the craft, like everything is something that the more you practice, the better you get. And I just love words. My friends and I used to make up our own dictionary with made up words. I'm a total word nerd. So it's no surprise that I ultimately ended up writing a children's book.
I
So
love it. I love it. What would you say is kind of like your earliest memory of like that reading and writing? So you said like that junior high, you had a lot of those books that you really enjoyed. So do you remember any of those?
the first book I read, and it's probably not appropriate for, it's definitely like one of those strange books. And it's like I found it like at some dark, dusty kind of, antique shop or something. It was a book called Go Ask Alice. And I was in junior high, and it's a book about a young girl, I think, struggling with addiction issues and things like that. And that wasn't my experience at all, but it was really just such a like to literally get lost in this girl's story and her world, which was so very different than mine. I was captivated. And of course I read when I was younger, like Sweet Valley High and, the Hardy Boys and all these types of, serious books that came out back in the day. So I have memories of myself in Jamaica, reading these, Flowers in the Attic, these kind of, very popular books. But I have to say, when I read Go Ask Alice, I was like, whoa, and so that was a book that really kind of changed my love for books and passion for books. And then I went into like all the Stephen King and, a lot of the kind of thriller, scary movies, Dean Koontz and all this stuff. So that's how I started.
Awesome. Asha, are there any books that you enjoy reading?
I have to say my favorite book is probably The Secret Lake.
Ooh, The Secret Lake. What about it do you enjoy?
I like adventuring, so when they get lost in the tunnel of time, that's probably my favorite part.
Oh, nice. Nice.
We should probably add, if it has words, Asha will read it. At any given time, how many books are you reading?
I can read 2 books at a time.
You sound like me. I'm always in the midst of about 2 or 3 books. I'm like, sometimes books take me so long to read because I'm reading so many different ones at different times.
And you can,
Nice.
she'll grab a couple different books. It's like, which one are you reading? All of them.
All of them.
It's true.
Would you say this is your favorite thing?
Yes.
Awesome. Nice. So, tell us a little bit more about like what inspired you guys to create the Adventures of IMP.
I'll take this one first. Yeah. It's actually a good segue because as we talk about her love of reading, that was really what inspired the book series, to be honest. So we were traveling in 2015. We left the US to really kind of travel and live full time as expatriates and just kind of live overseas. And we were living in France and later in South Africa and traveling around to all these different places. So we would go to, Thailand or Singapore, Indonesia or Oman, and we'd go to these different places. And Asha loves to read, like ever since she was literally like as soon as she could read, and she just loves books. At the time, she was barely 3, so she wasn't reading herself.
Right.
But that's always been her favorite pastime. We read to her every day, every night. And you go to the airport, you're kind of looking for something to take with you on the flight or to take with you on the trip. And there were just really no good books for kids at the airport. Like, there'd maybe be a Frozen coloring book or maybe like a Disney activity book or something. But there weren't any kind of cool books for kids, and definitely nothing like a travel book for kids that would say, oh, you're going to Paris or you're going to Japan. Here's some things to know about these places. This was like, there should be this type of product. Like, there should be something that, you can buy at the airport gift shop that tells children about different places, different types of foods and cultural things they should know about, landmarks that they might see when they get there. And while that wasn't the specific detailed book I was looking for, I was just surprised there were no travel themed books for children generally. So that was the inspiration for the books. So we were looking for them, we couldn't find them, and we said we should make them.
I love it because it definitely is a need for it and a need for more.
Yes. Yeah. There's you think about it, there's so many themes that we could touch on, that feature diverse characters. There's a book for every topic you can think of, when you kind of go looking for children's books, but featuring diverse or characters of color, Black characters, like it just doesn't exist. And so, and we have I see quite a few on your bookshelf that we have here too. And so we were like, hey, every book doesn't have to be about a historical figure or something about accepting our physical attributes. Some books can just be about going to get ice cream or going to travel or spending a night at grandma's house. So there's so many things you can talk about that we just haven't. It's the tip of the iceberg when it comes to diversity in children's literature.
Absolutely. Just the mundane things, the things we do every day. Like there's so many stories that can be told from so many different perspectives.
Exactly.
Those things. I love it. So we've seen IMP kind of like travel and explore Paris, London, and then New York. So was travel something, Serena, for you that was instilled in you as a child?
Yes and no, right? Yes and no. I would say the sense of adventure was instilled in us as a child. I grew up in Jamaica, and so it's hard to travel outside of Jamaica without the documentation, So we would, when I was, I guess, beginning age 6, we would travel to the U.S. to visit relatives. But that was it. It wasn't this idea of this adventure travel. It was like, oh, we're going to America for the summer at grandma's house, you know? But we traveled all over Jamaica. Like my mom, we'd rent a car for the weekend. We'd go, to the beaches that were further out and, go to spend a night in a hotel somewhere in the mountains. That was, kind of something different. So it wasn't this kind of big fancy idea of international travel. It was just this idea of exploration, touring different parts of the island, seeing different things. And then once we moved to America, and then, you have all of America, which is so beautiful and varied, and there's so many things to see and do. My mom always made sure that we took, little things, car trips here and there. We could fly, we flew when we could to visit different parts of the country. So both my sister and I have the wanderlust for sure. And when I was in my first year of law school, so I was there, I was maybe around 20 years old, I saw something about studying abroad. I went to my mom, I was like, Mom, like I can go to Spain and study by yourself. And that trip to Spain, somehow I convinced her to let me do it. It was when all these kind of ETA bombings were happening, so she was terrified to send me to Spain. We went to the embassy, and there was this really, grotesque kind of headline, and she was like, "Oh my God, am I going to really send my kid to this place by herself?" But she let me go, and that trip was transformative. Like that's when I really discovered international travel, and I was just hooked ever since. But I've always been encouraged with the sense of adventure, which is the same we try to do with the kids too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Were there specific aspects of like each city for the books that you wanted to make sure that you captured?
I'll let Asha answer this one.
No, not really. Not to me.
What were
Were there certain things that are there certain things that stick out to you in these places that you think is important to share?
No, not seriously.
what were some of your favorite places to go and visit or things to see?
It's probably South Africa, Jamaica, and France.
Okay, and so why do you choose those three?
Well, in South Africa, I find that it has a lot of nature which I really like, and
You said Jamaica.
Jamaica.
I really think that Jamaica has everything you need. So there's mountains, there's beaches, and it's always sunny.
Oh, you cannot go wrong with those three. Absolutely.
What do you love about France?
And France, almost everything.
Oh.
Oh, the bakery.
Those are the best. That's the best thing about France. Oh, everything, but particularly the bakeries.
Exactly. You'll see in the Paris book, we had to take Aya to a cafe because I have to say there was a trip when we first were kind of, we came to check out France to see if it's somewhere we could live, and we did some reading on the fans and apartments and all that. And I swear she survived on quiche and croissant for 2 weeks. When we wrote the book, I was like, I've got to put a French boulangerie into the book, because a French bakery, because she just survived on like those two things. She was like 3 years old, not even 3 at the time. And when kids get in different places, sometimes they're just kind of really peculiar with their eating.
Right.
So we were like, okay, we've got to put the bakery in there, because that is it's such a classic thing to experience when you go to France.
Right.
So in each place, what we try to do is really show children and their families like what are the key things you're likely to see. We can't cover everything, obviously. So in New York, a lot of people who I ask for recommendations, Bronx Zoo, Coney Island. You can't see all those things on a trip to New York, so you might see that in your second or third trip if you're further out to these places. So we can't include everything, but we try to include the places that people are likely to go, the things they're likely to see. And then just kind of like those little like things that make the places what they are, So when I first went to New York, the hot dog stands.
Right.
And so it's like, oh, you see, now we probably don't eat there anymore. But when I first went to New York, I was like, these little colorful hot dog stands that had like soda and pretzels and hot dogs. As a kid, your eyes are like, ooh, when you see that. And so, in Paris, the little sloth, Pete has his armful of like macaroons, which is, everybody comes to France, they love the colorful, macaroon sweets. So in each place, we try to share things that people may see, foods that kids and their families may encounter, and just little things about the cities that you're likely to, from a child's perspective, really fascinating.
Right. Were there any aspects or any like places that you wanted to put in, but did not necessarily like make it into like the final cut?
One of the things in the London book that I really wanted to include, but we just couldn't find a way to do it, was the Notting Hill Carnival.
Mm.
The carnival in you missed it just when we were there a couple years ago. But yeah, so the Notting, especially I'm Caribbean, so we wanted to figure out a way to incorporate the Notting Hill Carnival into the book, but that just didn't work out. That's an example of something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, so that would be the main one I would say.
Okay, nice. What's something that just in terms of like thinking about this series, and what do you hope kids kind of like get out, or readers get out of these books?
Yeah, certainly. One of the things that we hope to do with these books is to kind of change the narrative, right? These books aren't really about travel, but it is about changing the narrative. Obviously they're travel themed books, but they're not really just about traveling. Like, you don't have to travel to appreciate these books. But part of it is to change the narrative about who gets to do these things. So I think there's this idea that only white kids get to travel, and so our idea is for all children to be able to look and see a little girl who looks like Aya, being out in the world, being brave, exploring, going to different places, and belonging, right? It's this idea of belonging. No matter where you are, no matter where you go, no matter what you look like, there's a place for you, you belong there. And we just want to encourage and inspire all children, and this is a message and an inspiration for Black kids and non-Black kids,
Right.
So
Right.
white kids can know, hey, it's not unusual to see, because if you're on, and as you know, with social media, you'll think there are all these Black travelers from all these things, but we go to all these places and we're like the only ones, and so to change the idea that Black people travel, we belong, we explore, we do all the things you can do. It's not a thing for us to have these experiences and to be in different places. And so we want to make sure that all children are able to see a character like Aya represented.
Absolutely. And it's so important now more than ever. And we can kind of like live vicariously at this moment when so many of us are yearning to travel, but with the pandemic can't quite do it just yet, or don't feel as comfortable doing it just yet. But what advice would you give for parents who want to make kind of travel part of like their children's experience, and they may have that, like they may be reluctant or think, oh, I'll wait until they get older. You said you've been traveling with Aya since before she was even 3 years old, and so what's some advice that you might give for parents who want to bring more travel into their lives?
Yeah, certainly. It's the first thing I would say is it's not easy. It's definitely not easy, but like all things, if it's something that is important to you and it's valuable, and to be honest, it's just travel is so informative and so transformative for children, really. Like, that's the one thing we learned and encourage us to write the books, because the world has so much to teach children, this idea of world schooling. And there are things that you just cannot learn in the classroom, to learn about differences and kind of cultural differences and adaptability. This was one of the things that I always said has been the greatest value for our children, is this, that they can be adaptable in any environment. You put them in these different places, they kind of have to figure out how to get along wherever it is that we are. So I would say, even though it's not easy, I have to say, it's not like going when you're single on the fly. It does take advanced planning. It does take preparation. But I would say with planning and preparation, patience, a clear itinerary, it's something that it's worth it's worth the hassle, or it's worth the pain, or it's worth the stress, that might come with the long flight or something like that. The value for the children in terms of their development, their intellectual stimulation, sparking their curiosity, it outweighs any type of negatives or disadvantages. Practically, I would say, like I just said, figure out your flight schedules, fly at times that are convenient for your children, their nap times, things like that. Stay at places that are, as far as, within your budget, that are easy and comfortable for you to be able to kind of be as close to having an at-home experience as possible. We're huge fans of staying in Airbnbs because it's just much more comfortable to cook your own food and to be able to get up and make your own breakfast. So, You're not forcing out the door trying to figure out like, oh, what's my kid gonna eat? They eat oatmeal every day at home, you know? So you make the oatmeal so they are familiar with the rhythms of the things you do at home. So really making it as comfortable for them as possible. And just to have fun with it. Like at the end of the day, you know, don't overplan, don't try to do too much. It's
Right.
really just about the experience of doing it. And that's really what's the most valuable.
Right. So you guys are in France now. And do you, for your kids, do you put them in like different schools for each place that you travel, or is there like a constant?
Yeah, so since since Asha has been in formal school, we try to stay for extended periods of time wherever we
Okay.
are. So we were living here before, and when it was time for her to start, you know, when she turned 3 and she had to start school, we put her in school, and she went to school like a regular. You know, she went to school, we respected the school calendar, and we moved back to Florida to have her baby brother, and so we were there for almost 2 years. We put her in school. She did pre-K, she did kindergarten. Now we're back in France. You know, she's in regular French public school. She goes to school. Before, when they're young, when she was younger, before she had to start school. So, for example, we lived for a while, I mentioned, in South Africa. So we found, you know, kind of a daycare preschool place not far from our apartment. We put her in school there. So if it's, you know, if it's anything longer than a month, we still have to work.
Right.
So we do have to find childcare options. So we tend to put her, at the time, we put her into you know, daycare or preschools, wherever it was that we were living. But now that she's in, you know, regular formal school, we have to stay put and keep her. That's the one thing my husband and I, we've committed to saying, hey, we want to give them the smoothest, most stable kind of educational foundation. So now that she's formally in school, we say, okay, we can't move around, bounce around every year or two. We have to say, okay, we're going to be here at least 5 to 7 years. You know, we're going to put the same school, same friends, same teacher for at least, you know, this period of time.
Right.
So that's what we're doing right now. So
nice. Asha, how are you enjoying school?
I enjoy it a lot. The only thing that I don't like right now is that I have to wear the mask every day and every single moment except for lunch.
Yeah. That is the sad thing about school, you know, not being like having to wear your mask, you know, trying to not really being able to interact with your friends as much as you would like, right? But hopefully soon we will get back to more of a normalcy.
yes, the vaccines are here. So
Absolutely. Hopefully in the near future.
he's a good sport about it, though. Yeah. And we're just lucky that they're in school. I have to say, when they reopened schools here, because we did 3 months of a hard lockdown where the schools were closed,
Right.
and you know, the fact that children, you know, kids back at home are still going to virtual school.
Right.
I really thank my lucky stars every day. I'm like, thank God, because we're also, when we were homeschooling, or not only teaching her the subject, but it's in French, and so it's like, French myself. Like, how can I homeschool her in French?
Right.
We had to call in the neighbors to help us out and all this stuff, because it's a whole different thing homeschooling in a different language, you know.
Right.
So, thank God the schools are open. The bars, restaurants, everything is closed, but the schools are open. So
okay. We're trying to get back to that point here in the States. So, you know, hopefully soon. I know here in New York, they just recently, the elementary is back open, and then the middle schoolers just went back after this week after break. But I have a high schooler and he is still virtual. I'm not even sure that I can get him to go back because he's become so comfortable with online learning. So
well, that's good. At least he's in high school. They're much more autonomous. And,
right.
you know, they've been socialized already with other kids. You know,
right.
5, 6 years old. They're just learning how to be social with other children. You know, so much of their learning happens from their peers. And absolutely. So it'll be a great day when the schools can fully reopen at home. We'll be excited to see that.
Absolutely.
Safely reopen, I should say.
So I know something that you mentioned earlier was around, you know, publishing yourself and, you know, really being able to like share the stories that you want to share. And something that we love to do, or that we try to do here at Stories of a Colorful World, is definitely connect with authors who are, you know, self-publishing, because, you know, writing a children's book and putting your baby out into the world, you know, is like, it is not for the faint of heart. Like, you really have to have like a deep hustle to, you know, have the patience and the tenacity and the drive to keep putting it out and to share it with the world. And so definitely for those people who don't necessarily have like the huge publishing companies, you know, backing them, it definitely takes a lot of determination and motivation and passion. And so how has like your experience been in terms of like publishing these books and making sure that you're like the joy of seeing it out in the world?
Right. Yeah. So we never shopped our books around. You know, when we conceived the book series, initially, doing your research, you start kind of, looking to see, okay, what are my options here? Do I, how
Right.
does the publishing process work? So I certainly early on was like, well, do I shop this around? I talked about it with kind of our board of advisors, like my mom, my sister, and my husband. Yeah, so we, on our show, we thought, okay, should we try to shop this thing around? I said, no, we're going to kind of do the no limit model here. We're going to own everything. We're going to try to be as vertically integrated as possible.
Right.
So we never tried to shop the books around to a traditional publisher. And the idea was we really wanted to own our story, have control of our ownership on our publication, and ultimately our distribution. And so it's certainly not easy, because especially with children's books, it's really hard to cut through the noise. There's still,
Right.
much like the music industry a few years ago, there's still gatekeepers to the industry.
Right.
It's like they have the big two, big three distribution companies where if you don't have X number of titles, you can't get into that channel, to get into the bookstores, to get into the libraries, and all the entire book distribution pipeline is really challenging. But we said, we're going to it's one thing to write the book, but to figure out how to put it into the marketplace and distribute it is a whole different thing.
Right.
But we just kind of said, okay, there's only a few ways to skin this cat. Let's figure that out. Where are all the independent bookstores that we can reach out to? Obviously they are, used to ordering through these traditional channels, but they
Right.
can go other ways. And so,
Right.
after we published our first book in 2018, we followed it up with our second book in 2019, and then we had something. So it's like, okay, now we're reaching out to all these independent bookstores, and they're like, okay, we'll take a chance on you. We'll take it. We'll do a direct order
Right.
from you. Okay, so once you see that, you realize, okay, it is possible for them to go outside those channels. You just keep doing it. You keep pitching other companies. And our big pitch came after we published our third book last year, which is the New York book. In
Right.
2020, we pitched Nordstrom. And by then we had a 3-book collection. The books were already kind of getting out into the universe in terms of some press and some publicity. And remarkably, we pitched Nordstrom, and someone in the buy-in office was already familiar with the books, and they agreed to carry INP. So once we got that kind of big corporate retail, backing, and obviously that's not all about that. We value our independent bookstore partners as well, but to be recognized kind of on a national level, to say, hey, we have on our own produced a product that's of a quality that Nordstrom can carry. They carry your Random House, your Penguins, your,
Right.
established publications, that we could produce this book and that they are willing to carry it. We knew we had created a quality product. And that was our intention all along, to create a quality product that really is an art style quality book for children, and that obviously showcases our experience and our story in a beautiful way. So it's not easy, but you figure it out, you get in there, and you just say, hey, how am I gonna, like you said, you're hustling, you're literally hustling. It's like it's out of your trunk.
Absolutely.
You figure
Some
it out.
people think that the hard part is like actually writing the book. And that is the part that you want to get out into the world, but then it's like that's when the real work begins in actually getting it out.
Yes. yeah, you publish your book and you're like, yeah, I published
Right.
your book. And it's like, okay, there's no agent that's like, just calling up Barnes and Noble, like, hey, the new book is out, where do I send the boxes? It's like, no, okay. How do I get this out to people? So we do a lot of B2C, we sell directly to consumers a lot. And then we have our independent bookstores. We love Brave and Kind in Atlanta, Books and Books in Miami, Word Bookstore in New Jersey. So it's been really Jersey City. So yeah, so it's been great, just kind of, and I like that part of it though. To me, I like the business kind of challenges and figuring things out. Like that's kind of another side of the business beside the creative. That's actually kind of fun for me.
Absolutely. And then when you see the success, you can really like own it and really be proud of like, look how much we've done to get it to this point.
Yes, exactly. It's true. It's true. I've spoken with a couple different authors who have gone. I see you have May Among the Stars behind you. I adore Rhoda Ahmed. We actually ended up reading together, her and I. And I really adore her story because she was with a big publisher and then she went out on her own, started her own publishing company. And we really just exchanged notes. And she was like, hey, look, being independent is the way to go. You own your things, you own your content, and you can push it as much as you want. You
Right.
Big publishers, you create something, it's up to them if they're going to kind of push it, if they're going to shelf it, if they're going to do reorders, or they're going to kind of drag their feet on it. Right. And so she really had some great insights for us in terms of her experience having gone big traditional and then gone back to being an independent publisher. So
that's amazing.
So, yeah, we love May Among the Stars. We just read that last night, actually.
So what does, I guess in thinking about kind of like all the things in terms of like your inspirations for writing this book, like what does diverse representation mean in children's books, like mean to you?
Right. I think it's being able to see your story being told. I think we really subscribe to this idea of windows and mirrors in children's books and literature. So I think it's this idea of being able to see your story told, to see yourself and your family and your community validated, and having a sense of belonging. And I think it's important for other children to see, to have that window, to see the experience of other children and to see the experiences in our book, literally of other cultures, right? It's literally a window into other cultures, whether it's France or England or, London and New York. So this idea of windows and mirrors for children to be able to see themselves reflected, to see their families reflected to them, and just increasing their sense of belonging. And then for other children to see that, oh, there are other children who live like this. This is not something that's exclusive to any one type of child or socioeconomic status or race or anything like that.
Right. What advice would you give to like other writers who are aspiring to put their work out into the world?
That's it. Children authors, what would you say?
Yes. Asha, what would you tell other kids who wanted to write a book?
I would say no. I would say I have no idea.
Read a lot of books?
Yes.
Okay. Read a lot of books so you know what, makes a good story?
Yes.
I should say I pulled her in last minute. I was like, hey, Asha, you want to jump on this call with me? But there was no prep at all on this one. So yeah, I think reading is a great place to start, a good practice.
Absolutely.
What would we tell aspiring authors?
Yes.
I would say we all have a story to tell. Whatever your experience is, whatever your life looks like, if you have something, I love the Toni Morrison quote that says, if there is a book that you want to read that has not been written, you are the one to write it, And so I think we all have a story to tell. This just happens to be ours. I think if there's something interesting or unique about your life or your experience, or your observations, you should share that with the world. There's no corner, there's no market on who gets to share their stories. And so I think it's important that you share your story, write your story, get help if you need it. There are people who will help you to write your story, but I say just tell it. There's room enough for us to all share our stories. Everybody, there's so like Netflix has an unlimited collection of movies. There's an unlimited supply of content that people want to read. And so if you have a story to tell, I think you should just go ahead and tell it.
Absolutely. I think we're finally getting to that place where we are again seeing things being viewed from like different perspectives. Whereas like it felt like we were at that place maybe like in the 80s where like particularly with music, like you can find a different type of music for everyone. And then it started to narrow and like the same thing felt like it happened in media. So in like movies and books, it kind of narrowed, but I feel like we're starting to widen again. And showing like different people can have different perspectives about the same thing, and there can be so much for so many people.
Yes. Oh yeah. I'm just blown away. I can't even keep up. There was a time I could read almost all the books that came out by Black authors. But now it's like every day I'm always screenshotting different books I see, because now, like you said, there's just so much new content that's coming on that speaks to so many different people. Whether they're into fantasy and science fiction to whatever your family experiences, addiction, whatever. So
absolutely,
death, mourning, whatever your topic is, there is something there for you. So I love to see it.
Absolutely. So we're kind of winding down our February theme of equality. I can't believe February is almost over already.
Oh,
Feel like it just started. But do you have any is there a word or a phrase or a quote that kind of like represents equality for you?
Is there a word or phrase that represents equality for me? It would have to be, let's see. It would have to be, this is a hard one. Equality. I would say freedom. I have to say, I think my word of the year, I have to say, is probably freedom. Freedom to do what it is that you want to do, right? We always say this, we're not asking for, a head start. We're not asking for handouts or anything like that. We just want freedom to do what it is that we want to be able to do. Get your foot off my neck.
Right.
Right. So I think equality is about just freedom to be able to, because I think we have seen that when people are given freedom to manifest themselves, there's no holding them back.
Right.
There's really no limits on what they can accomplish. And we've seen this time and again across so many different industries. So I think the more we move towards, liberation and freedom, the more we move towards equality.
Nice. So um with all of your travel, have there been any like family story time, like rituals that you've been able to like keep constant no matter where you go?
Oh yes, that goes back to the beginning of the conversation, which is a great way to bring it all full circle, and it has to be the bedtime story. That is one non-negotiable every single night, no matter where we are.
Nice.
There's a bedtime story. And so, one thing we never forget to pack, whether it's an overnight somewhere or 2 weeks or a month anywhere, we pack books. We look for books when we get to different places. This has also become one of our new favorite things. And I tell, in different types of guides, when people ask me about traveling with children, don't pack all the toys, but plan to buy toys when you get there.
Right.
It's such a great thing to take the kids for the day, to pick what they want. And it makes a great souvenir for wherever it is that they're going. So we always make time to, we'll pack a few things that are kind of staples at home, but Legos, a couple of favorite books, etc. But we go to the bookstore wherever we go to a toy store. They get to pick one toy. They get to pick a new book, and it makes a fantastic souvenir. But yeah, the bedtime story is definitely our family ritual routine. Doesn't change. We did it with Asha. We're doing it now with her little brother. She still sits in on the bedtime stories, even though she can read to herself. Because it's important that even though she can read, we do still read together, which is nice.
Absolutely. Asha, what would you say is one of your favorite bedtime stories?
Oh, I would have to say, let's see, I have like too many books. I would probably say Goodnight Stories for Rebel Girls.
Ooh, yes.
Who's been a favorite these days? And her
That's a good one. Nice. Is there any story that you really like in that one?
Yes. It's probably gonna be Joan Jett.
Who is it?
Joan Jett the rock star.
Okay. Nice. I love it. All right. So I'll let Asha go first. So Asha, when you're just relaxing in your relaxed time, what do you like to do more? Reading or writing?
Reading.
Reading. Awesome. Do you like fiction or nonfiction better?
Nonfiction.
Nonfiction. Okay. Why do you like nonfiction better?
It just tells me more about things more than fiction.
Nice. And do you like actual paper books or like the hard copy, or do you like to read on like a device?
The regular books.
Nice. All right, Mom, what about you? Reading or writing?
I love journaling. That's the way I kind of relax and unwind on my own. So I'm going to say journaling.
Okay. And fiction or nonfiction?
Fiction. I love biographies. I love biographies. I read the occasional, kind of self-help improvement books, but I'm a fiction girl. Fiction.
Absolutely. And hard copy or ebook?
I love hard copy books, but the downside to traveling so much is you can't really have your books with you. So I prefer now to read on a reader. And because I'm plugged into the Miami-Dade public library system on my phone, I can get any book I want at any time. It's kind of hard to find all the English books I want here in France. So.
Right. Are you currently reading anything good?
I am reading Transcendent Kingdom right now.
Okay.
Yes. Getting caught on saying her name. Yeah, Agazi, I believe is how you pronounce her name.
Yes. So yes.
Her second book, so I'm reading Transcendent Kingdom.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I loved Homecoming.
Yes, I cannot wait for them to turn it into a movie. I've read or heard that someone has the rights to it.
Oh,
so
wow.
The movie. But yeah, this one is interesting so far. I'm about halfway through, so.
Okay. And what about you? Are you reading anything good, Asha?
No, not really. Every single one.
What's that?
What?
No, Spirit Week.
Huh? No.
Like it's too much. There's
a wish list out for a couple of books that she wants right now.
Nice. So do you guys have any additional like projects in the works?
Yeah, so we just launched our 2 new products that we've launched at Nordstrom and soon to also be on our website. We've launched our 3-book IMP gift box set. So we're super excited about that. So it's a gift box set with a carry-in case, and it has all 3 of our IMP books in it, hardcover books. So we've just launched that. It's actually here. So yeah, we'll show it to you since we have it.
Absolutely. Oh,
This
nice.
is our box set. You open it up and it has all 3 books in it. And then we can make like a custom interior that has iconography from all 3 books.
I
So that's
love
super fun.
it.
So we have the 3-book gift box set. You want to see it? And then we also launched a Pete doll. So our Aya's little stuffed toy, Pete the sloth. We've launched a plush Pete. So that's super fun. So obviously moving away from books a little bit. The box set is obviously still books, but we thought the Pete doll would be a cute little bedtime accompaniment to go with the books. So those are the 2 things we are working on right now. And we have a couple other things that are a bit secret in the works, a little bit of a secret.
Okay.
Those are not available yet. So we have a couple other things that we're planning to launch. And we're hoping to have our 4th IMP title by summer 2022.
Okay. I was just about to ask, can we expect any more?
Yeah,
IMP?
to make a book from conception to publication, it takes a little bit over a year,
Okay.
depending on how busy we are, how busy our artists and editors are, but it takes about a year. So we're thinking by summer 2020, COVID and everything, has delayed things a bit. We're hoping we can have our 4th title by next summer.
Exciting.
So of course, you'll get a copy when we have it.
Absolutely. So exciting. Oh my goodness. So I want to thank you guys so much for joining us, and just let us know, how can people continue to, one, keep in contact with you guys and to see like all the amazing things that you're continuing to do, and also where can they go and get their adorable Pete plush toy and the books?
Thank you. Yeah, you can find us at our website, which is shopashima.com. That's shop Ashima, ASHIMA.com. We're also on social at Shop Ashima. They're all our handles. So Facebook, Instagram, you'll find us there. And you can buy our books, our box set, and the Pete doll all at Nordstrom. So if you check out Nordstrom.com, you can search either in the kids section, in the toy shop, and you'll find our books and our other products there.
So exciting. And we'll drop all of those things in the link below, just so you can definitely get your hands on all of these great things, especially as we wait for our time to be able to get back out into the world.
In the meantime, read I and Pete and get
some
Absolutely. Know where to go and what to do.
Absolutely. So thank you again for joining us. And everybody, don't forget that you can go on to www.storiesofacolorfulworld.com and check out our February Equality Picks of the Month. And we'll see you next time. Thank you guys so much.
This was great. Thank you so much for talking with us.
Thank you.
Bye.